So let's get to it. How does it feel to have your final state of the state behind you now?
It's a little bittersweet. Just to be honest, it's so many relationships that have been built and built up over the years, and we've been able to do so much together, and to look out, and having gone through 7 previous years, you kind of know the tempo and how fast things come at you and how fast time flies. And I'll miss the camaraderie, and I'll miss the relationships that have seen us through challenging times, and done a lot of celebrating together as well. So, but we've got a lot of work to do, and there's a long, I always say I have a multi-page, small font to-do list, and I'm not going to leave anything on the field. So we'll be working till the last hour.
So this is then kind of a harder question. You laid out your agenda earlier this week, things that you'd like to tackle, your priorities. So if you had to pick one priority, one that absolutely needs to get done, that you want to see get done, what would it be?
I think the key for our state, for our country, for any country for that matter, is to make sure that citizens are appropriately skilled for the work that is out there today and going to be out there tomorrow. It's the scale and the pace of change in what we do, how we do it, is rapid. And it requires people to upskill or reskill or refresh, and that interrupts life. And so we have to make sure that we're as accommodating as we can be in terms of state providers to assist people to go back and reskill. The good news is we have the jobs. If we didn't have the jobs coming to our state, high wage jobs, high demand jobs, we're almost magnetic in the sense that the economy of the future and our ecosystems are growing such that we're taking advantage of our world-class universities, our world-class workforce, our work ethic. We just need to make sure that we're appropriately skilling up in all the different areas, whether it be in life sciences or advanced manufacturing, defense, the new forms and sources of energy. All these things really do matter, but they require a different skill set.
And that one stop to start piece you talked about earlier this week is really critical, so that people know, hey, here's what's out here.
Absolutely. If you feel like you're being left out or left behind or can't afford or need a different schedule, what is almost painful to me is I get all these different testimonials, they accumulate, and people come up and tell me, hey, I took advantage of the Workforce Ready grants or the employer training grants or different programs that we have that make it affordable, that are looking at it, through the customer or the student lens if you're in college or in an adult training program, or if you want to go back and get your high school diploma. We got about 425,000 Hoosiers that don't have a high school diploma or the equivalency of one, and that's holding them back. We can continue to bring in a lot of jobs, but we have to, the key is to help people, and that's what One Stop to Start is all about. It's about, there's a navigator that's working for you. It's your concierge, and we take great pride. We're keeping score in how many people we're skilling up and getting moved on into a higher wage bracket so that they don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs. You can work one. And some of these jobs start at $75,000 a year, and they don't require even a college degree. So you can come right out of high school if you're trained and skilled and move right into a career.
Looking back, looking ahead, what do you think your legacy is going to be? If you look back.
I think it's going to be for others to judge, of course, and it's usually in the eye of the beholder, a lot of different opinions. I will take great pride and comfort in knowing that we were courageous about dealing with reality. And as we see the world around us change, we weren't timid about saying, we're going to go anywhere in the world and try to bring it back to Indiana and build it here. We know we have to get healthier. I said we had to get more skilled up. We also have to get healthier as a state. True around the world as well, but we got to take care of our own. And so we didn't shy away from saying, there's been this nagging issue that we haven't as a state collectively helped local communities with, and we did that last year. So I hope in general it's someone who listened, who played it kind of right down the middle, played it straight, was willing to take responsibility, be held accountable for come what may. Little did I know it'd be a global pandemic. That certainly, whether I like it or not, will be part of the legacy, was how we kind of sailed through that stormy, rocky waters. But we did it, and we did it together, and I'm proud of everyone statewide that came together. And now on the other side, we're stronger than ever. We've, in 7 years, added over $150 billion to our GDP. It's a massive swing. And so, yeah, we're landing a lot of projects, but we're also launching at the same time.
Let's talk about the LEAP district as one of the projects. Some folks have suggested that could be, part of your legacy. There has been some criticism regarding when the water was going to be tested. If you could do it over again, is there anything that you would do different?
I would say communicate more early and often and religiously. That we've not changed anything. That water is a utility. You have to have volume and sources. It has to be proven. And that's what we're doing. And that's what the IFA is rightly doing. I think what's frustrating for us as well is Indiana has water. We just got to go find it. And our competition, neighbors, other states, talk about the gold in the ground that they have. And we do too. So if I could change anything, it would be just reassuring citizens that we're not going to rob Peter to pay Paul. It's not realistic to think that you would ever, nor would I ever do it, but that you could ever promise some company water that's going into your home. Like, it doesn't work that way. Employees are teammates in the company, and so you have to be able to do both. Fortunately, we can. Also, we're going to, at the same time, and what makes this even more confusing is it's already been identified that Central Indiana needs more water sources, separate of LEAP. And so we're going to have to solve that for residents, for farmers, for everyone involved. And then LEAP, as it develops, and if we get a single user that uses a lot of water, we'll have to make sure we prove that we can do both. Residents first, business community second.
And I'm not a water scientist, right? But if the testing would discover that, hey, there's not enough water in Tippecanoe County to do this, what would happen to that land, that LEAP land?
Well, more companies will go in, I think, to that property. It's a very attractive piece of property, and when you look around the country or our state, oftentimes what developers do is they look at what you're in between, and the ecosystems build according to that. So you could be between Crane and Muscatatuck, and you might be very attractive for a defense-related project, or between Purdue and FedEx, and you might be very attractive for an advanced manufacturing project. And that's kind of the 50-yard line between our capital city and Purdue University. Same could be said between Bloomington and Indianapolis, or Muncie and Indianapolis, Fishers, Westfield, Noblesville. And so I'm confident that as you see Boone County already, it's one of the fastest growing counties in the country before LEAP. And you look at the residential growth and the corporate growth, it's already happening. And so this is just a natural extension of that growth. It's just in a very high wage sector. And so we're pretty excited about it. But again, we're going to have to put the straws in the ground that show where the water is, just like we've been doing all over the state of Indiana since we started building pipes.
Let's talk about some proposed legislation. During this last mayoral race in Indy, both candidates talked about addressing youth gun violence, that it was an issue, and they both supported raising the age to buy a handgun to 21. And there is a bill like that here that's been proposed to raise the age to buy a handgun from 18 to 21 as a way to combat youth violence. Is that something that you would support if that came across your desk?
That's a steep hill to climb when you tell an adult they can go serve and defend our freedoms and go into harm's way at 18, but they can't legally as an adult defend themselves at home. And so I think he'll have to be very persuasive to make progress amongst his own before I would ever see any language that would get close to making my desk. Having said that, what we have said is we are very concerned as a state about gun violence. I just was reading an article about across the country the kind of record annual drop in murders. That's good news, but one's too many. So how do you prevent evil from striking? Part of the conversation that I believe this building is very concerned about is making sure that we're deterring violent crime by deterring in every way possible violent criminals from doing it again. So often that's the case if you just look at the stats. And so we're going to spend some time, and I met with the President Pro Tem and the Speaker yesterday morning about how recent bail reform efforts are affecting violent crime. And I want to be driven by the data. I don't want to just go on my own gut. I want the information to be laid out and see what's working and not working before that goes, because you'd have to change our Constitution, quite frankly, to change that law. And that would be in 2026. It'd have to be voted on again in 2025 and then 2026. So I think there's a heavier emphasis or leaning into how do we deter violent crime.
Another bill from Senator Gary Byrne would prohibit free or reduced public transit fares on Election Day. And the question some of the folks back at the office were talking about, are you concerned that a measure like that would add to kind of the further polarization that we already see anymore surrounding elections?
I'd have to really look at I trust what you
Sure.
what you read.
I get it.
But I'd have to look at the individual bill. It's not part of my agenda. I want to make sure, and I've always said this, that voting is easy in Indiana and cheating is hard.
I mean, speaking of elections, we have a presidential one coming up. Both candidates are kind of casting this as the, fight for democracy, the most important election in our lifetime. How do you see it?
I think it's always the case and always will be. It often, I laugh sometimes because it's like Groundhog Day. Every 4 years, it's the most important election and consequential in our lifetime. And it happens to be true because it's now. And the next is always going to be as important as the last because it sends our nation on a course. And so what I have said and what I've tried to kind of walk the walk or practice what I preach is show me the substance. Show me how you're going to get in, not just Indiana, if you're a candidate for office in Indiana, but America, if you're running for the highest office in the land. How are we going to, pay down this $34 trillion national debt where our annual deficits are preventing us from investing in programs that are unsustainable as they are right now. And I've just to date not heard much about that at all.
You haven't endorsed any candidates for governor yet? Do you want to now?
If I was ready to, I would. It would have been good timing on your part. But I'm more looking at, again, policies to endorse. I've been eating, sleeping, and breathing, policy that will, I hope, help Indiana progress, whether it's on the infrastructure front or community development or workforce development. That's what we do here. And I'm looking forward to endorsing someone who says, I'm just as interested in the biotech hub, the hydrogen hub, the microelectronics hub. I'm very interested in how folks will approach making college more accessible and affordable. I'm very interested in who's going to talk about our Health First Indiana program, making sure the local communities have the resources that they need, and looking at what is the ROI, what's working, what's not. How are you going to address infant and maternal mortality rates? I don't care as much about the rhetoric. I care a lot more about the results, and that means show me your plan, and that's what I would endorse if I do.
So when you shut off the lights and turn over the key and walk out, what's life look like for Eric Holcomb, private citizen?
Yeah. I'll probably have to deprogram for a few days. This is a job that is been, I said a couple nights ago, the honor of a lifetime. It's truly been a privilege to serve, and we've been surrounded by people who have the head and the heart to give, and we get in return a lot more, seeing people's lives improve, and so that will be hard to replace. Just the breadth and depth of everything that almost some 30,000 state employees do every single day. And so I'll probably take my time and be a little picky. If I've earned anything, it's that.
You could run for Congress. I hear there's some seats open.
I could do a lot of things before I would run for Congress.